Well, this looks accurate to me. Good evening and welcome to We Lie to You News, your most trusted source of lies. Tonight we have a full docket to terrorize you with, including climate lockdowns, a new Speaker of the House, what's going on with Jordan Peterson, and millions protesting in Brazil. Over what? We'll get to that in a moment. But first, for the past 3 years, conspiracy theorists have been saying that climate lockdowns will be coming. And it turns out these crazy nut jobs who never know what they're talking about are right, as they seem to be with most things. As a result, the City Council in Oxfordshire, England has approved a climate lockdown plan that will be implemented in 2024. We can't wait! Details of the plan include dividing the city into 6 zones, confining residents to stay in their zones. But in order to leave their zones, residents will be required to obtain what's called permission from the City Council. Residents will also be required to register their cars with the council, who will then track their auto travel via smart cameras. They'll be allowed a maximum of 100 days per year to leave their zone. Very generous. In addition to obviously saving the planet, the council says that their climate lockdowns will give their citizens a higher quality of life, as things like this always do. But in a show of compassionate understanding for the citizens who are objecting to becoming prisoners, the City Council travel chief has said the climate lockdown plan will go ahead whether people like it or not, as the way it should be in a democracy. But that's not all. The Oxfordshire lockdowns in 2024 will be run as a trial. Like all lockdowns that are ineffective and destructive, there's a 100% chance that these climate lockdowns will prove to be a glowing success and that more will be better. And while the conspiracy theorists had been warning that they would be trying to implement climate lockdowns, the approved narrative correctthink that we had been dictating to you was, they'll never do that. And now that they're doing that, the approved narrative correctthink is, well, they'll never do that here. But if you're feeling skeptical about all this, just know that highly trained scientific meteorologists will tell you that nothing will improve the climate more than the science of locking people in their own homes. With enough compliance and surrendering freedoms, we should see the climate improve to a perfect 72 degrees year-round in all places. In other news across the pond, a group of rowdy degenerates out for nothing but their own self-interest have just elected Kevin McCarthy as the new Speaker of the House. After 15 rounds of voting, McCarthy prevailed as the clear unwanted winner. Nancy Pelosi, a full-time insider trader who had been working part-time as Speaker of the House, is out and will now have to be an alcoholic somewhere else. In order to get people to vote for him who didn't want to vote for him, McCarthy had to give in on some key concessions, including creating a committee to investigate the weaponization of the FBI, an end to all mandate funding, implementing a rule allowing any single member of Congress to introduce a motion to vote the Speaker out, and giving members 72 hours to read bills prior to voting on them. Prior to the 15th and final round of voting, Representative Matt Gaetz voted for Donald J. Trump for Speaker of the House. Take a look.
Gates. Donald John Trump. Trump.
That's just good old-fashioned American fun. But in spite of the squabbling and getting him elected, Kevin McCarthy is expected to do a tremendous job protecting Ukraine's interests from America, so we can look forward to more of that. Moving along. Last week on national television, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field while suffering a heart attack. And over this past weekend in college basketball, Old Dominion player Imo Essien did the collapsing routine himself. And last but not least, last week former NFL player Uche Nwaneri, who called to jail the died suddenly at the age of 38. Our thoughts and prayers are with the pharmaceutical companies during these trying times while the light is shined on inconvenient areas. And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode of We Lie to You News is brought to you by money. Specifically, the money that pays us to tell you what is true. Thank you, money. In other news, recently it was uncovered that the notorious suspected FBI informant Ray Epps texted his nephew about the January 6th insurrection on January 6, saying, "I was in the front with a few others. I also orchestrated it." Huh. I guess the January 6th committee must have forgotten to investigate him or something. But once they release Trump's tax returns, we'll know for sure that Trump orchestrated it.
They already released those. They're clean.
Huh. Well, something doesn't add up here. But when 2 + 2 = 5, you can't expect things to really add up the way you think they will. On the topic of insurrections, Brazilians have stormed their Capitol building in protest of the recent presidential win for far-left socialist Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Protesters made their way into the Congressional Building, Supreme Court, and Presidential Palace on January 8th. Missed it by 2 days, guys. But millions across Brazil have claimed that Lula stole the election through rigging. I can't imagine what that would be like. Something like that would never happen here. But it's safe to say that Lula, who's a former convict, wouldn't do something like that. He's also stated that protesters who entered federal buildings will be identified and punished. Back in the UK, in neutered news, a trans man has given birth, and he and his non-binary partner used a female sperm donor. The child is expected to grow up identifying as confused. And finally, the Canadian regime is going after Canadian psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson. How so? By way of the College of Psychologists of Ontario threatening to take away his license unless he attends a re-education camp. The crimes Peterson committed? He openly advocates for mental health and freedom. This does not sit well with the Trudeau administration that advocates for suicide as a mental health treatment and the restriction of freedoms. No doubt, Jordan Peterson could stand to learn a thing or two from people who aren't even half as smart as him. But Peterson, one of the great fingers of our time, seems to have contracted a case of civil disobedience when it comes to dealing with a corrupt state, as Peterson has claimed he will not be attending re-education training to learn how to think correctly from people dumber than him. That's it for today's news! Get your prison cell ready because climate lockdowns are coming your way. And if you're a man looking to give birth, look no further than a female sperm donor. Down is up is down, lies are the truth, and we've got to work together for the good of the few at the expense of the many. And if you don't like that, just do something safe and effective today because that'll take care of you. Good night! Real quick, my freedom-loving friend, if you're like me and you too envision a world that is awake but not woke, you can check out this design and all the other classics and new designs in my Freedom Shop, only at awakenwithjp.com, and enjoy spreading the freedom vibes. Hey there, my friends. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Primal Life Organics, and their LED light teeth whitening system. I'd like to be honest with you. I used to be insecure. Now that probably surprises you because you're saying, JP, a man like you who rides a tricycle is insecure? Huh, how could that be? Well, it's not actually my tricycle, it's my son's. But the truth is, I did used to be insecure specifically about how my teeth looked. I was always embarrassed if they weren't really that white, and they never were. They always had a yellowish tint to them. It really made me feel embarrassed. But it gets worse because I didn't know what to do about it. I know there were some teeth whitening options out there, but I didn't really know where to start. They seemed intimidating. Then when I started looking into them, I saw a lot of them involved harmful chemicals and peroxides that can actually damage your teeth and health. And I didn't want to do that. So I just thought maybe having yellow teeth and feeling like crap about myself is my destiny. But then my Yoda came along, Primal Life Organics, and I found their LED light teeth whitening system. And I've been a huge fan and using it regularly for over 2 years now. It's the only teeth whitening system that I trust, and I trust it because it works and it's all natural with no harmful chemicals. Here's how it works. As you can see, it utilizes an LED light mouthpiece, which is kind of like a lightsaber for your teeth, combating yellowness. And it also utilizes a food-grade teeth whitening gel, all natural, safe, and effective. Using it just a few minutes a day, 3 days a week, and it gives me a noticeably whiter smile. I have people around me who compliment me on my white teeth now. And best of all, that boosts my self-esteem and makes me feel more secure within myself, which I love. If you'd like to start beautifying your smile with whiter teeth and feeling better about yourself, then just go to naturalteethwhiteners.com/JP. And at that link, you get a full 60% off the Primal Life Organics system. Enjoy it. It's a slam dunk in my opinion. I think it's regulation.